He is a god of the game.
Welcome everyone to SportsCharcha, episode number 8. We have our Champions League and Europa League finalists for this year. Was this a coming-of-age performance by Manchester City? And talking about age, is this the end of an era for Real Madrid? Elsewhere, we discuss Inter finally winning Serie A after 11 years and the most important weekend in La Liga. Did United fans make enough noise by postponing EPL's biggest game, or do Glazers even give a damn? What's next for the North London Giants? And guess what? Mourinho found another club in Italy. Funny they say Rome was not built in one day, but Roma can be dismantled in the next 1 year. Let's go! Hey! So, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. So, we are recording this on 7th May, Friday, 10 a.m., which means both the semi-finals, Champions League and the Europa League semi-finals are done. And as usual, we have Eeshaan with us. Eeshaan, you can say hi to everyone.
Everyone, welcome to SportsCharcha. Lots to talk about. It's been an interesting week in football, but a very exciting weekend coming up in football as well. So yeah, lots to talk about. I'm looking forward to this.
So we'll start with the Champions League semi-finals, the obvious one. So we'll start with the first game, PSG versus Manchester City. What a mature performance from City, I'll have to say. I mean, extremely an un-Guardiola type performance where they had only 44% possession. However, PSG had 0 shots on target. More than the attack, I was extremely impressed with the defensive performance of City.
I think the City we've seen this season is a very different City, far away from the Pep Guardiola City that we've seen in the past, where they've actually focused a lot of possession or control in the midfield and not towards the attacking flair that we've seen in the past season with Raheem Sterling and Mahrez going across the wings. It's actually been because I think Sterling has had an off season and he's not been available for quite a lot of the important games this season. So he's had to restructure a lot of it. And also with Aguero not being there, like a strikerless City. But as you rightly pointed out, that defense this season has been outstanding, and especially in matches where it matters. Eric Garcia, for example, had an outstanding performance in this game. But I would also attribute this win to a very, very poor PSG. I do not know what happens to them when, pressure or when big results are required. The big stars in quotes, because I would put it in quotes because big stars, they become stars only when it matters.
True.
And they didn't show up again this time. And having no shots on target in a match where you actually needed goals is a bit surprising, especially from a very attack-centric PSG. So I was all in all very disappointed, but I think City were the better team across both the legs. It was a well-deserved victory over the two legs for City. And I think they are obvious favourites for the Champions League. This is probably the best ever chance to win it.
Talking about the defensive performance of City, I mean, the previous episode we spoke about the first leg between Real Madrid and Chelsea, but we couldn't cover PSG versus City. Now, talking about the first leg also, PSG had absolutely very less shots. I mean, they scored that one goal and then there was 1 or 2 other chances. Mbappe had 0 shots, not 0 shots on target. He had 0 shots. So the way Ruben Dias handled Mbappe in the first leg was brilliant. And then later we came to know that he was actually not 100% fit, which we saw in the second leg. He didn't even play. But I'm not going to, as you said, I'm not going to pinpoint City's victory only on that one particular factor that Mbappe didn't play, because that's extremely grossly unfair to how City played. Now, apart from the obvious best performances of De Bruyne, Mahrez, Foden, all these players were brilliant, but I want to point out 2 players. One's Ruben Dias and the other one is Fernandinho.
Yeah.
Fernandinho, he's 36 years old and there wasn't a single blade of grass in that ground he didn't cover in the second game.
Yeah.
He was everywhere. He was cutting every attack. He was doing all those important tackles, breaking all PSG's counter attacks. He gave absolutely no time on the ball for any of the PSG midfield or even for Neymar. He gave this amazing performance. He also actually pissed a lot of PSG players off, which eventually drew that red card foul from Di Maria on him. So extremely mature performance, and it'll be a great final to see him versus Kante for Chelsea. So I'm totally looking forward to it.
Yeah, I just want to correct myself. I said Eric Garcia, it meant Ruben Diaz. But I think what is important is that, like, in both legs, PSG, especially in the first leg, dominated the first half. Like, they, in terms of possession, in terms of attacking football, they should have they should have had capitalized on the few chances they got, and but they didn't. And I think City, what they did was, they knew this would happen. They were just holding on to the pressure that PSG would give, and then they knew that PSG are very weak mentally, and we've seen that in the past. The moment things don't go their way, they crumble, and that we've seen across both legs, with the ridiculous tackles, the red cards, especially in the second half and the second leg. PSG just lost all bearings of how, decently people should play football. I think it went into, they tried all the dirty bag of tricks, and they were just crying foul, and it was just sad to see in a Champions League semi-final, because, you're up against a very professional side. Whatever you say about Pep City, they're pros. They know what to do. They play football, and they play, and for other than the dives of Sterling in the past, they're very clean, right? And that's all what PSG needed to do, because what came out of the result was not just a PSG who cannot, get results when it matters, but it also a PSG that gives a very bad image of its club if and when they lose, and that's not something they would want out of a big club.
Yeah, they totally lost their heads. I mean, every single player was making cynical fouls. It was just pretty disappointing to see, as if I'm watching 10-year-olds playing school football and they were losing. I was pretty disappointing, but again, just rounding off by congratulating City, Pep, and all their players. I couldn't point out a single City player who had an average game. Everyone was about 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. Even Edison, who didn't make a single save, I mean, who actually, not, I'll rephrase it, who actually didn't have to make a single save, he ended up providing that first goal. Like, it was his ball over the top to, I think it was Mahrez, I believe. Zinchenko, yes, you got it right. Yes, his ball to Zinchenko for the first goal actually created the chance. So, again, overall, great performance. Congratulations, City, and all the best for the.
I also, just to end, I want to give a big up to Zinchenko as well, who's really upped his game at the end of this season. He's become a real difference maker for City on the left side of the field. So, just to add to that.
Did you see when Fernandinho went full ape shit on Zinchenko for shouting at the referee?
Yeah. Yes. But Fernandinho is like a papa now. He's like been there, done that. He's like what Yaya Toure used to be once upon a time for City now. The grand old man. And what a player he's been for them. Like like how Aguero is held as a club legend. I think when Fernandinho ends his term at City, he deserves equal, if not more, plaudits as well for being that rock solid player for them over the years.
Moving on to the second one, Real Madrid versus Chelsea. I saw the game, but to be very honest, that should have been a 4-1 or a 4-2 kind of game. It wasn't a 2-0 definitely, because there were so many chances. Chelsea missed so many chances. Eduardo Mendy made, I think, a couple of brilliant saves. One especially, that Benzema's touch and turn shot. It was an amazing save at a very crucial point of time. But I felt Real Madrid's, as we pointed out during our last episode also, this is the last straw of this squad. I mean, to me, this felt like that game felt like an end of an era.
Yeah.
This is it for this particular set of players.
I think, one big ups to Tuchel. I think, we've seen the stats of how he has won every single game against all the big managers in Europe this season. I had a vague optimism before the second leg started, but very soon in the first half, I realized that, it's very difficult to break down a Tuchel defense this season with Chelsea. And it coincided with how meek our attack is this season. if it's not Benzema, we don't have any answer. And we knew that, just with the starting lineup, Zidane was putting all the cards into this fixture. He started Ramos, who's not played for over 3 months. He started Hazard, who's not match fit. And they both almost played the entire 90 minutes, right? Hazard especially never lasted more than 60 to 70 minutes at Madrid, and he was substituted in the 89th minute. But uh, I think you're being a little generous. It was not. It was supposed to be 10-1 because the number of chances Chelsea had, and I think the irony is that the best player we had was an ex-Chelsea player, Courtois.
Yeah.
He made some really outstanding saves. I would say poor finishing as well, but he made really crucial one-on-one saves, and I think I'm very happy for Timo Werner for scoring that goal. It was one of the toughest goals he would score in his life.
Yeah.
We've seen how tap-ins work for Chelsea players in the past, not very well, aka Torres.
Exactly.
But Chelsea were clear winners out of this tie. There was never any doubt across both legs. They should have won the first leg as well. But I think just going back to what I said about PSG and how unprofessional they were, I think I was happy with the fact how Madrid ended this game. They were pros throughout. There were no cheap tackles or, crying out. They knew the result, I think, by the 85th minute, what was going to happen, and they played it out like pros. But what was sad to see was Hazard's reaction, which everyone is talking about
Yeah.
post-match.
I was going to ask that.
I have a certain amount of sympathy. He's become Eden Hazard because of Chelsea, and he's made a lot of friends, etc. All of that, but in this day and age where cameras are on everyone's actions, I think it was a bit naive to do it like right in the ground in front of all the cameras to celebrate, or not celebrate, but hug and greet his ex-players. It was a bit naive, and I think he knew what was going to happen. He's almost become a Bale, where he's literally riling up Madridistas unnecessarily. It's sad because he's not had a great season. I would not say you not had a good season at all. And I think as this probably, as you rightly said, is the end of a very successful era for Real Madrid. A lot has to change for Madrid in terms of their squad. A lot of aging players. So it will be a challenge because we don't have money. That's fair and square. How are you going to rebuild a squad when you don't have money? A lot of tough decisions would need to be made. But coming back to the Champions League, it's going to be a very interesting game in the Champions League final, and all English final after a while.
After a while, 2 years later, just 2 years before Liverpool and Tottenham.
After a while, he won. Tottenham was an anomaly, bro. Like, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting. City are favorites. I'm as I said, it's never going to be this easy for City and Pep to win the Champions League. But not counting out Chelsea, it's all about how N'Golo Kante shows up on that game. If he plays like he did against Madrid, you never know. We could have be in for a surprise.
Yeah, so that's where I think the game is going to get decided, in the midfield between Kante and Fernandinho. I hope Pep plays Fernandinho and doesn't screw up and start with Rodri. So that's where I think the game is going to get decided. And full marks to Tuchel again for getting a tactical masterclass against Zidane, and to their players for executing the plan to the T. But I just have a different perspective from what you had, because I think it's not going to be as easy as you were saying. I believe Chelsea still have a fair chance, because Chelsea did beat City in the FA Cup semi-finals, where Chelsea can play that waiting game. City, to be fair to them, they also played that waiting game. As I was pointing out, they had 44% possession, so they can play without the ball, and they have shown that. But I believe Chelsea can do that better than City. So that's where I'm going to give Chelsea that extra little edge over City. So
you're saying Chelsea are favourites?
Slight favourites.
Wow.
Only by a slight this thing. Only because Tuchel has defeated Guardiola earlier in a semi-finals game, in a one-off game. So that's where I'm going to put Chelsea slightly ahead of City in the finals.
I think we'll put our predictions to test this weekend when they play each other.
Exactly, there's going to be a rehearsal this weekend. But anyways, as you pointed out, it's the same country finals. I think this is the seventh or the eighth time this is happening. I myself have seen at least six or seven. But to be honest, none of them were great games. None of them were spectacles. So hopefully this will turn out to be a better game, at least for a neutral to watch, and not like this tactical game of chess where both the teams are playing the waiting game.
I am very pessimistic on that regard, Bala. I think you're a romantic. I think it's going to be a very dull game with one goal or max two deciding the fixture, because both are going to be focusing on hold, like not conceding more than scoring. So I hope that it becomes like this, back and forth game with a lot of goal, lot of chances. But I don't see that happening. But one never knows in football, you know. But I'm definitely not expecting a extra time game for sure.
So Europa League semis, nothing much to talk about Manchester United Roma. I mean, it was 6-2, pretty much completed in the first leg itself. I mean, Manchester.
You mean Edinson Cavani versus Roma?
I mean, see, United could have played their reserve squad and they could have still gone through. So that game wasn't much of a focus. It was still a good game, 3-2. So again, congratulations to United. Credit where it's credit's due. Finally, they were able to break their semi-finals jinx. So good luck to them.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they'll go on and win the title. But on the other game,
Trust Arsenal to bottle up the entire storyline of an all-English European final in both Champions League and Europa, all-English Super Cup, all of this storyline that I had actually built up to talk about in this podcast. Trust Arsenal to really fuck that up, because they're just so predictably unpredictable. It's unbelievable.
yeah. But all credit to Unai Emery again. See, the man has won 3 back-to-back Europa League. This is his 5th Europa League finals. It's fair to say that he's a specialist. He's simply a Europa League specialist. He knows how to win this competition. So on that front, I am not going to put United that much favorites as I was going to earlier. United are still favorites, obviously, but I am not going to I'm not going to say Villarreal is going to lose fair and square. You have to give that level of respect to Unai Emery. He can.
No, for sure. I think, Villarreal are a solid team. They're obviously not in the same level as United in terms of, their players and their squad. But as you said, experience in the final of a big tournament is what Unai Emery has and Ole doesn't. And that might actually pay dividends for Villarreal, because, I think Unai Emery has to go down as the greatest Europa or, UEFA Cup managers in history. Like, nobody has done it more often than him.
Yeah.
Full respect to him. It somehow does it. It's unbelievable. As you rightly said, they deserve that respect. And it will be an interesting game. I'm actually looking forward to that game more than the Champions League, because there will be a lot of attacking chances, because Villarreal are not a defensive squad, nor are this United when they get when the momentum is with them. So it will be really interesting to watch that game. And I think it will be fun for a lot of viewers to watch even as neutrals.
Let's move on to the news, the actual big news of this week. We finally have a winner in one of the 5 big leagues in Europe. Inter has finally broken the deadlock. Inter has finally won Scudetto after 11 years. Congratulations to Antonio Conte and all their players. Brilliant win, thoroughly deserved, and hopefully they'll continue to win more in the next coming years.
I mean, I'm so happy. I've always been an Inter Milan fan since Ronaldo used to play for them many years ago. And, this has been a really solid season for Inter Milan. And I think we mentioned this in our, a couple of podcasts ago, going out of Europe, like completely, not even in Europa, played a huge role in them winning this Serie A, because they had all their players at full strength, full form. And, big credit to Conte for bringing out the best of the players who we thought were, buried in the grave. Christian Eriksen, for example, he's come up clutch in the last couple of games for Inter, and he's been a really important player for them. Obviously, their player of the season, without a doubt, Romelu Lukaku. There's no doubt about it. He's really shown his worth as a centre forward, but also as a leader in the squad. Like, he's shown that level of maturity this season that we haven't seen in the past. Partnering up with Lautaro Martinez, I think that's one of the most potent attacking partnerships in Europe that nobody talks about. You know, everyone talks about the Griezmann, Messi's, Benzema, Ramos, but but I think this is underplayed because they're not in Europe. But I think they are going to be a force to be reckoned with in Europe as well next year. It'll be interesting to see Inter Milan in Europe as well as Serie A. I think they're going to be favorites because all the other teams are transitioning. You're going to see a lot of changes in Juventus as well. We don't know how that would work out. And I know what you're going to go to next, the new manager in the Serie A. That was really quick. I read a tweet where somebody wrote that Mourinho has been brought in to end the reign of his ex-club, which was won by a manager who ended the reign of his ex-club.
Of his ex-club. True.
So, yeah.
Actually, if you see Conte, Juventus winning streak started with Conte and ended with Conte.
Yeah.
So there is a great start. As you rightly pointed out, everything you covered, I completely agree with that. Inter was easily the best team. They played the best football. They were defensively very good. They were able to score goals whenever it mattered. And again, the point that you brought it up, all the players who were supposed to be fringe players came during clutch moments and contributed at a very important time. I mean, you had players like Darmian scoring match-winning goals, Christian Eriksen scoring goals. So it was truly a remarkable performance. Congratulations to Inter. But on the other hand, there's a tighter top four race going on. Juve almost lost their game in the weekend, but thanks to Ronaldo, they saved it and they won that game 2-1. But again, Napoli, Atalanta all drop points. Now this weekend there is an extremely important game. So Sunday night, there are two important games. One is obviously the Real Madrid Sevilla, which we'll discuss in some time. But there is also Juventus versus Milan. Again, an extremely important game in the context of top four title race. Milan right now are in 5th, Juventus are in 4th, and Atalanta 2nd and Napoli 3rd, I believe. So it's going to be extremely interesting towards the last 4 or 5 game weeks. So watch out for that.
I'm not convinced with Juventus, man. Like, I saw that game. I saw the highlights of that game. It's really, like, it's very boring, dull football that they're playing.
I saw the game, second half. I didn't see the first half. I watched the second half. Till 82nd, 83rd minute, that's when they scored their first goal. Juve had absolutely nothing going on. There were no creativity. The exact same things that we have been discussing throughout the season about Juventus. It was exactly the same that was happening. There was no creativity, no idea whatsoever. It was an extremely poor handball that gave them that penalty which Ronaldo scored. And the second goal, which I will give credit, it was a great goal. It was a good ball into the box, and Ronaldo being Ronaldo was able to meet it. But again, apart from that, Juve were very, very pathetic. They were stale. We'll see how they're going to play against Milan. But the point that we spoke about last week, that Juve will get through because they have quality, and that quality was what actually saved them towards the end.
Just before we end the Serie A topic, what do you? I want your opinion on this. Will Ronaldo be at Juventus next season?
If they are not in Champions League, definitely not. If they're not in top 4, Ronaldo is definitely getting out of Juventus, because it's actually best for both. A, Ronaldo would want to play in Champions League, and B, Juve won't be able to pay Ronaldo that much salary without Champions League money. So,
but Ronaldo might want to play in a Champions League, but who in the Champions League can afford? Which club in the Champions League can afford him?
Well, there are talks that, I mean, it's again rumors that Manchester United are looking to bring him back, and also since we are actually talking about Ronaldo's movement, so I'll just quickly jump on to the transfer part. That there have been talks that Mbappe is closer to Real Madrid than he was ever before. So which means that PSG will have slots open. So I saw PSG are lining up for both Salah and Ronaldo, and they're also lining up for Messi. So a lot going on. So Ronaldo could find a club maybe in England or in PSG.
Got it. Okay. It'll be interesting. I think you mentioned this in our last podcast. It will be probably the most action-packed transfer season we've seen in a couple of years, in many years actually. But it'll be a lot of smart transfers that will make the difference, not the big ones. I feel because of who can optimize. And I think we've not spoken about Mourinho being in Roma. Either Roma are suicidal that they're going to pay a heavy package for him to quit mid-season, like he's known for. But I think it'll be interesting because Roma might be the ideal place for Mourinho to get his brand name back up. It's just that level of club where they can be the Achilles heel for all the big teams, and he's really good at that. So it will be a very interesting season, as you rightly said.
And he does not have to spend a lot of time pissing people off in the team. He already has Mkhitaryan and Smalling there. So the groundwork is already being laid. So he'll just go straight into accusing them. First interview he's going to accuse Mkhitaryan and Smalling. Alright, moving on to the next most interesting league race that's going on in Europe, which is the La Liga. This is the biggest weekend. If you are going to, even if you are remotely interested in La Liga, as we said last week, please make sure you follow this week's game. Saturday night, 7:45 Indian Standard Time on Facebook Live, Atletico Madrid versus Barcelona. Sunday night, again on Facebook Live, Real Madrid versus Sevilla. These four teams are now currently on the top four. Atletico Madrid number 1, Real Madrid number 2, Barcelona number 3, Sevilla number 4. Sevilla unfortunately lost points the last weekend. They lost to Athletic Club. So my dreams of Sevilla winning the league is pretty much over. But Barcelona, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid all are up for this.
I think it's going to be hugely exciting for even the neutrals to watch these games, especially when it comes to Atletico versus Barcelona, right? I wouldn't say it's a season decider for Atletico because if they lose, they still have a chance because the fixtures they have post that are very winnable. But if Atletico win, then meaning it's going to be very difficult for them not to win the league, however much they've bottled this season. I think in momentum, just going by momentum out of Atletico, Barcelona and Real Madrid, I think Barcelona are the in-form team. They had a anomaly of a result against Granada, where they lost, which was not expected, but they came up, they won against Valencia, which was a tougher team on paper, but Valencia is Valencia over the last couple of seasons. I still feel that Barcelona have it in them with Messi. Messi always does well against Atletico Madrid. It'll be, I think, will Suarez be able to play this game?
He is fit, but there is no confirmation on whether he'll start or not.
Because if he plays, that script that we wrote when they first played and Suarez missed out, this is that moment because I've never looked forward to a Atletico Barcelona game so much because there's so many things at play, right? An ex-Real Madrid player, Llorente, who's probably been their best player, could be the main player for Atletico to decide this result and cost Real Madrid a league title. You never know. There's so many storylines. Could this be Messi's final hurrah? Would them losing and not winning the La Liga be the final nail in the coffin to Messi deciding to leave Barcelona? So many things at play. It's going to be a great match, and it's not going to be boring for sure. It's because Atletico know that they have to attack because the weakest point Barcelona has is defense.
Yes.
Right. If they are going to be the Simeone of old where they just wait for the counter, Barcelona will win. Because, it's not worked for Atletico, especially in 2001, where they've just, tried to contain the pressure and then attack. They probably missed out on a lot of, 3-point games because of that. So they will have to go out and attack Barcelona. Barcelona have not been good in big games this season. So, there's so many dynamics. I personally, however much I hate it, believe Barcelona have it in them to grind out this result and win the La Liga. Unfortunately, I believe that Real Madrid have no chance.
On the other hand, I cannot predict at all. I mean, there's a lot of, as you said, so many things can happen. It is impossible to objectively predict amongst these three teams. Yes, we can say that Sevilla is slightly out of the context right now.
Yeah.
But amongst these three teams, to me, it's impossible to objectively predict. Subjectively, based on what I want, obviously, I would say Barcelona to win. The point being, all these three teams have quality, all these three teams have players who can produce that moment of brilliance, that moment of that skill to take the game and to win the game. So all in all, a great weekend, totally looking forward to it. Hopefully it won't be dull 0-0 and 1-1 games. Hopefully they are good games.
Madrid will be hoping for that. A draw.
Yeah, that's their best result.
That would be like unbelievable for Madrid, if because that will really bolster their confidence, because now they have only the La Liga to play for, and it could be a last hurrah for a lot of players for Real Madrid this season. So I think Modric put up an Insta post saying that we fucked up, and he actually used Google Translate. His actual caption says we fucked up, but now we have 4 finals to play for, and the finals word has been historic in Zidane's term as a manager in both his terms with Real Madrid. The moment he goes into this, we have 5 finals to play for, 4 finals to play for. That's when Madrid's mentality changes. So it won't be easy, but if there is any team who could somehow miraculously win La Liga out of nothing, it can be Real Madrid, because they've got the head-to-heads to play in their advantage.
Exactly.
So that is something they know, they're going to be aware of. But I think it's down to Atletico and Barca how that match plays there, what result happens, and that will be the decider in the La Liga. So amazing weekend.
And the fact that that match is going to happen a day before Real Madrid Sevilla also add a lot of importance to that game. So yeah, as we looking forward to it. So hopefully it turns out to be a great weekend. English Premier League. There was supposed to be a big game on Sunday, but Manchester United fans decided to barge into Old Trafford Stadium and forced to postpone the game, forced to cancel and postpone the game. So it was a protest against their owners. It was a protest against Glazers for using this club as an ATM, practically as an ATM to siphon out money and to finance whatever debt that they incurred when they bought the club. I personally in for any peaceful protest, because I believe it's a democratic right of every citizen to protest. But what I read in certain reports, again, very, very small minority of these idiots who will come out and disrupt a peaceful protest, but still it wasn't a good sight to see. Manchester United as a global brand took a hit, I believe, because of these protests. And one other point is, when these protests happen, yes, they are against the owners. Absolutely agree. The fans have had enough. They have been against these owners ever since they bought the club back in 2005. But they are attacking the wrong set of people. Like, they barged into the stadium. What did the staff who worked in the stadium did wrong? It was not their mistake. They actually lined up against the players' hotel, making sure that the bus won't leave to the ground. What do the players do wrong? What do the coaching staff do wrong? I mean, it's not their fault. And apparently the rescheduled games, it has come up actually yesterday, Manchester United will be playing 3 games in a span of 5 days. Sunday night, Tuesday night and Thursday night, because of this rescheduling.
I completely agree with you. Meaning, this reminded me of the Capitol attack in Washington a couple of months ago. I'm completely for, as you said, about protests being peaceful, and actually, because fans are the most important part of football, right? Their voices need to be heard. But what I'm a little flummoxed by is that it's coinciding with a year where United have actually done really well.
That's true.
In terms of their performances. They're actually in a European final. They're second in the league. Meaning, it's not that disaster has struck that financially they are so bad that they couldn't build a team and they are not even in Europe next year or something like that. So I found that the timing of it a little off. Yes, Glazers, as you said, have used United as an ATM, but I am looking at it from more in a macroscopic perspective, right? After this revolt happened, what they did was they went on the Team Viewer reviews, which is the next year's jersey sponsor for Manchester United, and downgraded their rating by 40%.
Wow.
Now, now what has Team Viewer done wrong, right? Sponsors are the reason, are the biggest contributor to you buying good players for your squad. Now, say for example, Glazers back off. All sponsors says, we're done with United. We can't deal with this shit. Sponsors back out. United will be the team they fear. Glazers, what Glazer did to them, they will be a mid-table or probably lower mid-table team without any players, without being able to sustain any of the existing good players financially. So what is this protest actually trying to achieve is what I found a bit confusing. They have revolted against the Glazers for many years.
Interesting, you brought that team viewer point. Sorry to interrupt. What I see in downgrading team viewers ratings is they are hitting where it hurts most for Glazers, the money part. So if you're going to hurt Glazers, see, protesting in front of Old Trafford, protesting in front of the team's hotel is not going to affect Glazers at all because they are 3,000 miles away from where these protests are happening.
Yeah.
So it makes more sense for the fans to hit where it hurts Glazers the most, which is where the money part. So by downgrading their sponsors, the sponsors will reduce their payments to Glazers. I believe that's what the logic behind attacking team viewers point. So I wanted to make that point. Please go ahead. You were saying.
No, I think that's a valid point. But if United are united because of their financial strength, however much Glazer has drained them, they're still a massively marketable, money-making, cash-rich club. I think it's a vicious circle, right? I get your point that they're trying to attack the Glazers where it hurts, where the money. But if the money dries up, what happens to United, right? Who's going to come? How will they afford any of these players in the future? So, I feel that I think, got a little too overexcited, or they got carried away by the nature of the protest and made it more about the concept of revolt than the revolt itself. I don't know if I can communicate or make understand, if you can get what I'm trying to say, but it's like they went so far ahead in what was supposed to be, I think, what was the initial plan. They, I think, wanted to get into Old Trafford and say that this is our ground, this is our team, stop ruining it. But then it went beyond that.
So I was listening to an interview by one of the Manchester United fan who were inside the stadium in BBC. It was interesting to hear from their perspective. So their point was, at least his point was, that they wanted to make a big noise about it, and they just had that biggest game in English Premier League's history, Manchester United versus Liverpool, to make that noise. So that means that this particular protest was talked about all over the world. This brought in a lot of attention. Yes, it did bring down the brand of Manchester United slightly, but it also put more focus on what's going wrong at Manchester United. Point number one. Point number two is, he just didn't say this is going to end here. He was saying that this is going to continue. They are going to protest even more. So the next game for Manchester United, I think it's against Leicester, I believe. Leicester or Aston Villa, I believe. Or the next home game is against Leicester. So they were saying that they are going to continue this protest against Leicester also. So now we don't know how it's going to happen. We don't know whether it's going to happen inside the stadium or outside the stadium. Or as you pointed out, this could be online also. They could go and downgrade some other sponsor. But the message was pretty clear that this is not going to end right now. So we'll see.
I think I have an interesting perspective, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. I think this also comes at a time in parallel where Manchester City, who are known, like, who are owned by almost a country, but where the owner has actually used his own money to invest in the club. where he's actually made City from a mediocre, mid-table, almost relegation-threatened club to actually invested in the facilities, in the players, in the team, etc. His own money, right? And whereas City, who have always been labeled as a cash-rich club, are now actually more of a family or more of a solid unit than United have been in the last 10 years ever since Ferguson left, right? So I think that is what also the parallel of how City have run a club with a lot of money and how United have been running a club with a lot of money. I think that parallel has also increased their frustration.
That's a brilliant point you brought in. In fact, one of the major reasons for this protest also comes from the fact that their city rivals are not making that much money as Manchester United make from a business point of view. Yet they spend a lot of money on the club. They invest a lot of money on the club. One of the major points brought in by Julien Laurent, one of our favorite sports journalists, the point that he brought in that the stadium is leaking. They are not investing in the stadium. They're not investing in lot of things in and around the stadium. So these are the points that came out pretty consistently across many of the Twitter feeds and many of the sports journalists I have been going through over the last 5-6 days ever since this protest broke out. So again, I understand the feelings of the fan. I understand their point. I understand that there should be protest, but I think it should be directed towards the right people.
I agree.
Anyways, moving towards this weekend's Premier League fixtures, not many interesting one apart from, as we earlier pointed out, the Champions League final rehearsal game, Manchester City versus Chelsea, and also the fact that Manchester City could win the league by the end of this week's fixture. However, there is still a top 4 race pretty tight, as we pointed out last time also. United pretty much sorted, but there is Leicester, Chelsea, West Ham, Liverpool, but I believe it's pretty much set. I believe it's going to be City, United, Leicester and Chelsea. West Ham, Liverpool and Tottenham might fight for the Europa League place.
I agree with you. I think there's also a game coming up which is big, which is the FA Cup game also. Not this weekend, but FA Cup game between Chelsea and Leicester.
FA Cup finals.
All these top 4 clubs are going to be playing with each other quite often, probably not United, but it's going to be interesting to see. And I think I agree with your prediction of the top 4. I think Liverpool, are done for this season. The way they're playing, I think they're already looking forward to working towards next season.
Klopp came out and publicly said, "Nah, we won't take Europa League lightly. We'll take Europa League very seriously."
And I think that's the right attitude to have at this point in time. There's no point crying over spilled milk. A lot of cartons of milk have been spilled over Liverpool this season.
Yeah.
But I think finally they got their attitude right, but their football is not right this season. And I think Klopp is the first person to acknowledge that. And I think that's what I admire about Liverpool. They've been very honest with their own feedback this season. They've had times where they've cried a little too much, Klopp especially. But I think by the end of the season, they know exactly what caused their result. Why they are in the place they are and what were the flaws in their teams this season. Obviously injuries played a part, but I think this top 4 will be the top 4 for next season. It'll be interesting. It would have been interesting if, say, Arsenal would have been in the Europa final and won it. It could have changed a lot of the dynamics of Champions League next season, but that drama is out of the window. United winning, so no place will be taken away from the top 4.
Let's quickly cover the 2 North London clubs. Since we are talking about Arsenal, I just wanted to talk about both Tottenham and Arsenal. Tottenham, they are still looking out for their new coach. One report I saw that they were talking to Erik ten Hag, who is Ajax coach, and 2 days after that news broke out, he went and signed a new deal with Ajax. There was a news stating that they are in talks to get Nagelsmann in. 2-3 days after that, Nagelsmann signed for Bayern. And also, I saw one news yesterday that they are holding positive talks with Antonio Conte, but I really don't think why Conte would come to Tottenham. I mean, he just won Scudetto with Inter. He will be playing Champions League next season with Inter. I honestly don't see why Antonio Conte would come to.
I think I saw Fabrizio Romano's tweet where all of this is not true, in a way that, Tottenham have actually not gone out and spoken to any manager. They're looking for a manager who will again be more of a Pochettino kind of player, which will grow the young players. They're looking for a long-term coach, and they're going to take their time with it. They've not approached. I mean, this is what Romano says, that they've not approached any manager proactively, and they're not looking to do that until the season ends as well. Obviously, at the back they might have a few candidates in their mind, right, already. But if you look at the manager field right now, there are not too many
Exactly.
good managers free. Allegri is completely in a different universe to what football Tottenham play or want to play. That will almost be going back to a Mourinho style of play, hard in defense, not too much. But I think their primary concern is that are they going to keep Harry Kane or not? Because that will define which manager comes to them, right? A manager wanting to come into a team with Harry Kane, and it is different from a manager coming to a team without him. So I think they want to get that thing sorted where they have their star players set for next season, and then they can look for that category of managers. So I think that will be Daniel Levy's priority, like figuring which star.
Yeah, even I'm also thinking that they won't go for a big name manager. In my head, I'm thinking they'll probably go for someone like Ralph Hasenhüttl or someone from Germany or someone from France. We'll see how they go. Same with Arsenal. I don't think Arteta will be there next season. I have a strong feeling that he might get fired by the end of this season.
I want to throw in a name which probably Daniel Levy not even thought about, is probably Unai Emery.
Very interesting.
He could be a great asset for them in terms of, they're going to probably be playing Europa. You know what that means. So I think that could be an interesting choice for them. If Tottenham come calling for Unai Emery, I don't think Villarreal have the strength to retain him, but I'm just hypothetically thinking it could be a good option.
Emery is not a bad choice at all, and also with the fact that he did coach Arsenal and he was kicked out, that will add to the drama also.
Exactly.
We'll see. Interesting.
Just to end the Premier League talk, do you think Arteta will be there next season?
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't think he'll be there. I have a strong feeling he'll be out by next season. See, he did win the FA Cup. That did give him some breathing space. But I didn't see the game yesterday. But what I read, and I saw a few YouTube videos of ESPN journalists and other things, it felt like they were very flat. I mean, they just had to score one goal to go through, and they weren't able to do. And apparently, he took off Aubameyang after the 80th minute. And brought in Willian. So
wow.
There were a lot of questions on his tactics, and also I don't think he will stay next season.
So two rivals, London rivals, will be potentially looking for a manager next season. That'll be interesting.
Exactly. That's why I was saying North London will be a very busy place this June. We'll go on to our new surprise section. Well, not so much of a surprise. It's a quick quiz. It's a classic Who Am I quiz. So the rules are pretty simple, Eeshaan. I have 4 clues. I'll give those clues one by one, and I'll give about 5 to 6 seconds of time between each clue. So if you know the answer, if you know which footballer I'm talking about, you can make your guess. If your guess is right, you win, the game's over. If not, I'll move on to the next clue.
Okay, got it.
Let's go. So this player, I was born in December 1987 in France. December 1987 in France. And I have played alongside Messi, Ronaldo, Benzema, Hazard, Aguero for both club and country.
I was born in France, but I've played with Aguero for both club and country.
Aguero, Messi, Ronaldo, Hazard. I mean, not with Aguero, both club and country, with all these 5 players at a country level and at a club level. I'm not saying exactly with which player he played for country and which player he played for club.
Aguero, Messi, Ronaldo, and who else did you mention?
Hazard, Benzema.
Oh man. Okay,
moving on to the next clue.
Okay.
I started my career at River Plate and then went on to play for Real Madrid, Napoli, AC Milan, Chelsea and Juventus before moving to MLS.
Gonzalo Higuain.
Woo, got it right. Great, awesome. My next clue was going to be I was infamously known for missing two glorious goal scoring chances in a World Cup final and Copa America final.
Oh no, that would have been easy giveaway.
And my final clue would have been in 2015-16 season, I scored 36 goals in Serie A for Napoli.
That's the toughest hint of them all. Higuain was born in France?
Yeah, he was apparently born in France.
Wow. Hey, only one question or what?
Only sorry guys, only one player this week. Next week onwards, I'll have two players.
Okay, before we end, I have one tough ranking question for you.
Go ahead.
Name me 4 in terms of from 4th being the highest, the least, and 1 being the best, your players of the season.
So far, wow, that's a pretty tough question. Number 1, I think I'm going to still go Lewandowski, number 1. Because the kind of things that he has done is tremendous, amazing. Number 2, I may go for Ruben Diaz. And
oh wow.
Ruben Diaz has been the real difference maker for City, so I'll have to credit that for Ruben Diaz. Third, I would say Lukaku. And 4th, I would probably say Benzema.
Yeah, that's a very interesting top 4. Actually, other than one name, I didn't expect the rest of the names in your top 4. I knew Lewandowski were going to be there. But the rest, I'm very surprised and actually very interesting choices actually.
See, that's why I didn't go with the team's success. I went with how much that player influenced the team's performance on field.
I'm surprised you not put Mbappe for sure. But Mbappe, because you referred to his last game as the reason probably you didn't put him in the name.
Yeah, but see, the whole point of a big player is you come out big in a big game. Yes, he did play very well against Barcelona, but that was a fairly beaten up Barcelona. So
I think my only change probably instead of say Lukaku, because he didn't do it in Europe, would probably be Gundogan.
Interesting choice again.
But Ruben Diaz was a shocker. I mean, I didn't even think of that, but I think that's a very good choice. And I hope he gets the plaudits when the Ballon d'Or happens in terms of being in the best 11 of Europe.
All this Ballon d'Or, FIFA award, all are voting based, man. And any voting based award is a popularity contest. And considering the fact that Messi has scored 28 goals this season and Ronaldo has scored 26 goals this season, I'm pretty sure they'll still be there on one end.
Point, but it'll be unfortunate. But let's see.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for listening, guys. This has been a really great week for football, and it's going to be an even more interesting weekend when it comes to football and the leagues. So have a nice weekend, guys. Stay safe. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye everyone. Thank you for listening in. Bye.
If you enjoyed what you heard, please share it with your fellow sports podcast listeners. And for more content, or even if you want us to discuss any other sports related topics, do reach out to us on Twitter at SportsCharcha. Bye-bye.